Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1687 and today's date is October 11th, 2018 and the title of the episode is Swamp Being Drained, Hint of a Timeline. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, a lot of people think that the swamp is not being drained, but when we start to look at the posts from Q, you can see how many people have been fired, how many people have resigned, and how many people have flipped and are testifying against the others. This is the draining of the swamp. And yes, they're continually doing investigations behind the scene. In order to have civilian trials and military trials, you need to have everything in place. You need to have those people who will abide by the rule of law and the Constitution, so you can have a fair trial. If you are bringing these people up in a military tribunal or a civilian trial with corrupt individuals, do you think these people are going to go to jail? Do you think anything is going to happen? No. So what must be done first? You must remove certain individuals. Remember, the deep state has been in these positions for a very long time. They've basically dug in and they don't want to leave. They believe they can still meet their goal. They're still pushing their agenda. And we can see that Rod Rosenstein, he's refusing still to turn over the subpoenaed memos. And he's backed out of the congressional hearings. Now, Representative Jim Jordan came out and said, Rosenstein, a no-show for tomorrow. Wonder why. He's stuck. And you know what? It doesn't matter at this point. We know that he's not just going to go ahead and release all this information, even though they continually ask for it. Trump has to do the D-class, has to go over the head of Rod Rosenstein. Do you think Rod Rosenstein's going to say, something, let's go ahead with the D-class? Absolutely not. But eventually, this is what it's going to come down to. Now, Rex on Twitter was responding to Stealth Jeff on Twitter. And Stealth Jeff said the following. So it's now October 10th. Rod Rosenstein is still not fired. First of all, Trump was never going to fire Rod Rosenstein. He's still in charge of the Mueller investigation. He's still refusing to hand over the McCabe memos. He's still holding up the declassification of the Spygate documents and their release to the public. Rex said, reminder, Trump is the master of using ambiguity and deception to destroy his enemies. When the hammer falls, they will have no idea. In fact, they may well think that they're in the clear. It will be amazing to watch their fall, Rex. And I agree with that. He's not going to come out and say, this is the time I'm going to do it. He's going to make each and every one of these individuals feel relaxed, like nothing's going to happen, that he's never going to declass. He's never going to take away their security clearance. And then at the right moment, at the right time, Trump, the Patriots, they will strike. And this is going to happen. You can see how all the pieces with the central bank, the economy, the deep state are falling into place. Remember, coming into office and having 2 years right now to do all of this is completely amazing. Since the deep state has been entrenched in government, in the central banking system, in the U.S. for a very long time, and they've been running the show. Everything is changing, but you need time to drain the swamp. And the swamp is being drained. This is why Q continually updates us and shows us, look at the people that have been fired. Is this normal? No, it's not normal. We see Judicial Watch right now. They announced today that a federal court ordered a hearing for Friday, October 12th, regarding a request for testimony under oath from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Cheryl Mills, and several other State Department officials about Clinton email searches in a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit about the Benghazi terrorist attack. The hearing was set by U.S. District Court Judge Royce C. Lamberth. So, 2.5 years ago, the court granted plaintiffs' request for limited discovery. mindful of parallel proceedings before Judge Sullivan and the ongoing inquiries by the State Department's Inspector General, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the House Select Committee on the Benghazi. Since those proceedings have concluded, it is time to set a plan for further proceedings in this case. The development comes in Judicial Watch's July 2014 Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed after the U.S. Department of State failed to respond to a May 13, 2014 Freedom of Information request. Judicial Watch seeks the following: copies of any updates and or talking points given to Ambassador Rice by the White House or any federal agency concerning regarding or related to September 11, 2012 attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Any and all records or communications concerning regarding or relating to talking points or updates on the Benghazi attack given to Ambassador Rice by the White House or any federal agency. This is the lawsuit that forced the Clinton email system issue into the public eye in 2015. In its filing, Judicial Watch informed the court that despite repeated conferences with the State Department, that they had been unable to reach an agreement on discovery proposal, and that the State Department is unwilling to agree to any discovery at all in this action. Judicial Watch's discovery proposal focuses on two main areas: evidence of wrongdoing or bad faith with respect to the State Department's response to plaintiffs' Freedom of Information request for records related to the talking points provided to U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice following the September 11, 2012 Benghazi attack, and potential remedies that may ensure a sufficient search for responsive records is undertaken. So we have Jeff Sessions, we have Huber, we have Horowitz, we have Wray, we have Trump, all pushing on their end. We have Judicial Watch on their end pushing the case against Clinton, Benghazi, emails, and everything else. Eventually, what's going to happen, once the right people are in the right positions, it's all going to blow up in all of these people's faces. They will not be able to stop this. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to remove the swamp personnel and replace them with those people who will follow the rule of law, instead of trying to stop things from happening, using excuses like national security, trying to stop other things, saying we just don't have it, we lost it, delay, delay, delay. That's their tactic. We see after Trump was out there and Q was out there saying that China is responsible, they've been stealing American secrets, and we know it went through Clinton's email server, and she allowed access, and they took the information. We see there was an arrest. The Justice Department announced the arrest of a Chinese intelligence officer who was charged with economic espionage against U.S. aviation companies. The officer was identified as Yanyun Zhu, a Ministry of State Security intelligence officer who was extradited to the United States from Belgium. He was charged in a federal indictment with conspiracy and attempting to steal secrets from American aviation and aerospace companies. So we see already they're hunting down certain individuals. And we're probably going to see a lot more arrests from the Chinese side. On the U.S. side, well, we're going to see arrests made also. Because remember, there were certain individuals selling these secrets. We see Netanyahu right now. He wants the world to recognize the Golan Heights as Israeli territory. And Russia is out there saying, listen, it's not going to happen. You cannot have the world recognize the Golan Heights as part of Israel. It would be a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. If you want this to happen, you need to go to the United Nations. You think the United Nations, with the rest of the countries there, are going to say, yeah, Israel, here you go? Absolutely not. And we can see that Israel, this is what they were really after. They want the Golan Heights. They want this area, but it's a part of Syria. And it's not going to happen. We see the U.S. has grounded the entire F-35 fleet after last month's crash in South Carolina. Now remember, a lot of these planes, a lot of the ships all have these chips within them from China. China has the access codes to a lot of our military and has the ability to bring down ships, has the ability to bring down jets. And I'm wondering if they are now going through each one of these jets, removing this technology, changing certain codes to make sure that this doesn't happen. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about this through the Navy, through the Air Force, and the Department of Defense. And I'm sure they're going to start removing all of these circuit boards that have the chips on them, and they're going to have to track them all down. We see out in Syria, the deep state, not just from the U.S., but from other countries, they are still pushing their agenda. A huge convoy was sent by the coalition forces, and it has entered the Syrian territory in the Kurd region. There was about 300 trucks carrying armored vehicles, ammunition, and logistics, and it was destined to be delivered to the Syrian Democratic Forces. And of course, the coalition forces, and this is France, Germany, and the rest of the countries, they're still pushing their agenda. The deep state, whatever they can possibly do from the U.S., their strength is dwindling in Syria, but they still have other factions that they can depend on to bring this equipment in. But we can see that it's almost game over. Their time is almost up there. And we see that the terrorist organizations, the paid mercenaries within Idlib and many other areas, they are just surrendering right now. And before you know it, Syria and Russia are going to have full control over the entire country. I just wanted to go back to Post 2380, which we mentioned in the beginning of this. And we need to understand, when we start to look at this and we start to say, well, is the swamps being drained? Isn't it being drained? Well, Wray and Sessions, they're not working with the deep state. They're working with the patriots. How do we know this? Well, if we go back to Q's post in 2380, it says, who must authorize the firing of FBI Department of Justice officials? Sessions and Wray. How many people have been fired? How many people are resigning? So if they were working for the deep state, why would they be firing all these individuals, the corrupt people inside these organizations? They wouldn't. They are actually draining the swamp. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. You need to clean your house of the infestation. Then bring in the people that you need to abide by the rule of law and the Constitution. And we need to remember, there's going to be two separate trials going on. There's going to be a military tribunal, and we're also going to see a civilian justice system, because people fall into different camps. It's not going to be just all military. Primarily, this is a military operation, but some people are going to fall outside of this, and they're going to have to be tried in the civilian court system. So we have two things going on right now, and they're getting prepared and ready for all of this. And they need to put all the pieces into place, and they're almost in place. If you really think about it, Q has hinted on a timeline. Q has told us in Post 2380 that these people are in the batter's box, saying this is what we have left. Once we have these people removed or flipped, or they resign, we are almost there. So Q is actually telling us, don't worry, we're almost there. We've gotten rid of a lot of people. We have these people that we have left to get rid of. And once we do this, we're ready to go. We're ready to move forward. And we can see this is where it's all going. Now, what's very interesting is Rand Paul was out there, and he's saying that he's very worried about an assassination. And we talked about events. We talked about what the deep state would do once everything started to fall apart and they have nothing else that they can do. They're going to rely on an event, or they might even try to assassinate the president. And I believe this is why Rand Paul is saying this right now, because you can see what is happening. The deep state is losing their grip on many of the departments. They're losing their power, their security clearances. They're losing pretty much everything. And when you start taking these things away, people become desperate. And the deep state doesn't want to lose power. They want to reach their goals. They have an agenda. They don't want anyone to control them, or especially bring them to trial. and show the world what they're really up to. To cover this up, they might try to assassinate Trump. They might try to push an event. These are all possibilities. And when people become desperate, they do desperate things. But we can see that the swamp is being drained. Everything is being put into place. And it has to happen this way. Because you need people who are going to abide by the rule of law and the Constitution to bring all these people to trial. Why do you think Feinstein, Blumenthal is out there saying, listen, don't listen to whatever the Supreme Court says. Don't listen to them. Don't pay attention to them, because they know what's coming. They know what's going to happen. They needed Kavanaugh in. They got Kavanaugh in. He's the fifth. A couple more pieces, and we're on our way. The hammer will come down. The hammer will strike. The storm will strike. And boy, it's going to be a devastating storm. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.